In L1703, a monk wrote a single sentence that has never been fully explained. He described two children who were not quite of this world. The village of Woolpit, Suffolk, England, a quiet agricultural settlement in the reign of King Stephen, unremarkable in almost every way. The village took its name from the wolf pits dug along its edges, deep trenches meant to trap predators that came in from the surrounding forest. During the harvest season of approximately 1149, local workers discovered something inside one of those pits that no trap had been designed to catch. Two children, a boy and a girl, unfeet diverse, frightened, disoriented, and dressed in garments made of an unfamiliar material no one in the village could identify. Their skin was green, not the pallor of illness, not a trick of light. Every witness account recorded the same detail, unmistakably, undeniably green. Two chroniclers documented this event independently. Ralph of Coggeshall and William of Newburgh, both serious scholars, writing decades apart, neither aware the other had recorded it. William of Newburgh wrote in his Historia Rerum Anglicarum, around 1188, that the event was, quote, so strange as to be almost beyond belief. The children spoke a language no interpreter in the region could identify. Not Latin, not Norman French, not any dialect of Anglo-Saxon. Something else entirely. From the journal, I have copied their sounds as faithfully as I am able. No man of letters I have shown it to can place it. One said it reminded him of something older than memory. The children refused all food offered to them. Bread, meat, water. They turned away from everything, growing weaker by the day. Then, by chance, someone brought raw broad beans still in their stalks. The children reached for them immediately, eating with what witnesses described as desperate relief. From the journal, they ate only the beans for many days. The girl watched us constantly while she ate, not with fear, but with the careful attention of someone cataloging what they see. The boy fell ill not long after their arrival. Despite the care of the villagers, he did not recover. He died within months, leaving only his sister. Ralph of Coggeshall recorded that as the girl began to eat more varied foods, over the following months her green color gradually faded. She learned English, slowly at first, then with growing fluency. And once she could speak, she was asked the question everyone had been waiting to ask. Where did you come from? The answer she gave has been examined by historians for 8 centuries, and it has never been satisfactorily resolved. From the journal, she said the name of her land twice, slowly, as though she wanted to be certain I heard it correctly. I wrote it down before she finished speaking. She called it St. Martin's Land. A place, she said, where the sun never rose high, where the light was always dim, like the moment just before dusk. She described a river. On the far bank of that river, she said, there was another land, bright, luminous, visible, but unreachable. She could not explain how they had crossed. One moment they were in their own land, she said, and then there was a great noise, and then the pit. From the journal, she does not describe a journey. She describes an interruption, as though the world simply changed around her without warning or passage. She said they had been following the sound of bells, distant, unfamiliar bells, and walking toward them had somehow led them here. From the journal, I asked her what the bells sounded like. She closed her eyes and was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, like ours, but further away than they should be. Both William of Newburgh and Ralph of Coggeshall recorded the bell's detail independently. Neither appears to have been aware the other had written it down. The girl was taken into the household of Sir Richard de Cown, a local landowner with connections to the royal court. She lived there for several years. From the journal, she has been given a name now, Agnes. She accepts it without resistance, though I have noticed she does not respond to it when she believes no one is watching, and is. Ralph of Coggeshall noted that she was, by some accounts, considered wanton and capricious in her behavior, words that may simply have meant she did not behave as expected. From the journal, she asked me today what becomes of people who die here. I told her they were buried in the earth. She looked at me and said, "We do not do that." She did not elaborate. The journal records only that she turned away after saying it, and did not speak again for the remainder of that day. The journal records that she was observed, on more than one occasion, standing at the edge of the village at dusk, facing west, perfectly still, for long stretches of time. From the journal, I asked her once what she was looking for. She said she was not looking. She was listening. I did not ask what for. She had, by this point, been living in the household of Sir Richard de Conn for nearly 2 years. She spoke English with ease. She ate ordinary food. She appeared, in most respects, unremarkable. From the journal, her skin is no longer green. I find myself wondering whether that is a recovery or a loss, whether something essential has quietly left her. She had begun to speak about her homeland with less frequency. When asked, she would answer, but the answers grew shorter, as though the memory itself were becoming harder to reach. From the journal, she told me today that she cannot remember the color of her mother's face. She said this without grief, only with a kind of careful, quiet surprise, as though noting a door that had closed without sound. What she did remember, consistently, was the light. She described it repeatedly across different conversations, always the same, perpetual, sourceless, neither day nor night. From the journal, she says the light in St. Martin's Land came from everywhere and nowhere. She says our son frightened her, at first, that she had never seen light with a source before. Historians have long debated whether St. Martin's Land was a metaphor, a misremembering, or a description of something literal. None of these explanations fully accounts for the consistency of her account across years. From the journal, she described the people of her land as Christian. She was certain of this. And yet she could name no church, no saint, no prayer that matched anything I know. She seemed untroubled by the contradiction. She was asked, at some point during her 2nd year in the household, whether she wished to return. The journal records her answer with unusual care. From the journal, she said she did not know how to wish for something she could no longer clearly picture. She said wishing required a destination, and hers had grown uncertain. There is something in that answer that no medieval chronicler appears to have commented on, the implication that memory and place are somehow the same thing. From the journal, I had begun to notice that she rarely looks at the sky. When I asked her why, she said the sky here is too decided, too certain of what it is. William of Newburgh noted that the girl eventually married, a man from King's Lynn, according to some later annotations. She disappears from the record entirely after that. From the journal, she left on a Tuesday in early autumn. She did not look back at the house as she walked away. I watched until she was gone from sight, which did not take long. The journal itself. From the journal, I do not know why I have written all of this down. I am not a chronicler. I am only someone who was present, and who found he could not stop noticing. The author of the journal has not been identified. The handwriting is consistent throughout, one person, writing over what appears to be several years. What is unusual is the final entry. It is dated, but the date itself is the problem. It falls after the writer should, by any reasonable account, have still been alive. The final entry is written in the same hand as all the others. The ink is consistent. The parchment shows no sign of later addition. From the journal, I am writing this from a place I do not have a name for. The light here is familiar. I did not expect that. The archivists who examined the parchment noted something else, a faint impression on the final page, as though a second document had once rested against it for a very long time. The impression was not legible, but its shape, the spacing of the lines, the width of the columns, did not match any known document format of the period. From the journal, she told me once that her people recorded things differently, not in marks, but in the arrangement of objects, that a page to them would have seemed a very strange place to keep a memory. The village of Woolpit still exists. The wolf pit that gave it its name, a deep earthen trap used for hunting, was filled in centuries ago. No one is certain exactly where it stood. From the journal, I went back to the pit today. Someone has begun to fill it with stones. I stood at the edge for some time. The air at the bottom felt different, cooler, and somehow quieter than it should have been. There are other accounts, scattered, unconnected, of children found near earthen openings in medieval England. Most are dismissed as folklore. Most offer no corroborating detail. From the journal, I have started to wonder whether the pit was an entrance or an exit, and for whom exactly it was intended. What the journal does not contain is any expression of disbelief. The writer never questions whether the girl's account is true. He records it as one records weather, as something that simply occurred. The boy had died within weeks of their arrival. The records are brief on this point. A child, unnamed, buried somewhere near Woolpit. No grave marker has ever been found. From the journal, the boy is gone. She did not weep, or rather, she wept in a way I did not recognize. A single sound, once, and then silence, as though grief here had different rules. Neither William of Newburgh nor Ralph of Coggeshall dwells on the boy's death at length. Both move past it quickly, as medieval chroniclers often moved past the deaths of children with quiet, practiced brevity. From the journal, she told me he had known, before she did, that they would not find their way back. She said he stopped looking at the horizon after the first week. She had not understood it then. What she described of their homeland was not a kingdom with borders, or a ruler she could name. It was described instead by its qualities, its light, its silence, its particular kind of distance. From the journal, she said there were no roads in her land, only directions, that people there did not travel to places, but toward qualities, toward the sound of something, or the feeling of a particular kind of air. This detail, navigation by quality rather than geography, appears nowhere in any known medieval literature. It does not resemble any documented tradition, theological or folkloric, from the period. From the journal, I have tried to find her homeland in the books I know, in Bede, in the geographies, in the accounts of travelers. It is not there. I am not certain it would be. She had mentioned, in one of her earlier conversations, that there was a river near where they had been when the bells began, a wide, dark river that marked the edge of something she could not name. From the journal, she said they were not supposed to be near the river. She said it carefully, as though the rules still applied, as though distance from that water still mattered, even here, even now. The river she described was not named. She referred to it only as the boundary, a word she used with the same careful neutrality one might use for a wall or a locked gate. From the journal, she said the river made no sound. That was how you knew you were close. The world grew quieter before it, not louder. She said silence there was a kind of warning. This description, a boundary marked by the withdrawal of sound rather than the presence of a barrier, has no direct parallel in 12th century theological geography, though certain monastic texts describe the edge of the known world in similarly sensory terms. From the journal, I asked her what was on the other side of the river. She looked at me for a long moment before answering. She said, "Everything that is not here." She did not elaborate, and I did not press. She had crossed it, or passed near enough to cross it, on the day the bells began. The bells themselves appear in both William of Newburgh and Ralph of Coggeshall, each account mentioning them independently. From the journal, she said the bells were the first thing, before the light changed, before the ground changed. The sound came from above and below at once, she said. It was not unpleasant. It simply meant that something had already happened. The detail that the bells were heard before any visible change occurred is consistent across her accounts as recorded in the journal, and it appears in abbreviated form in Newberg's original Latin text. From the journal, what I find I cannot set aside is this. She did not describe the experience as falling or as walking. She described it as arriving, as though the destination had come to her, not the other way around. Arriving, not falling, not wandering. The distinction is small, and it may mean nothing, but it is the word the journal uses twice in two separate entries written months apart. From the journal, she said she had not chosen to come here, but she also said she did not believe it was an accident when I asked her what it was. Then she thought for a moment and said, a consequence of what? She did not know. A consequence without a known cause. The journal returns to that word, consequence, one final time in its last legible entry before the date that should not exist. From the journal, I have come to believe that what happened to them was not random and not chosen, that there is a third category for which we do not yet have a word. The two major chronicles, William of Newburgh and Ralph of Coggeshall, were written independently in different monasteries by men who almost certainly never met. Their accounts agree on every essential detail. From the journal, I sometimes think the girl was not the mystery. I think the mystery was what her presence revealed about the place she arrived in, about how little we had thought to question. She had lived among them for years. She had learned their language, eaten their food, worn their clothes, and yet the journal suggests she remained, in some fundamental way, oriented elsewhere. From the journal, she once told me that she had learned to see this world clearly. She said it the way one might describe learning to read a language that would never quite feel like thinking. The village of Woolpit held a harvest fair each year in September. The journal mentions it twice, once in passing and once with a detail that is difficult to account for. From the journal, at the fair this year, I saw a child standing very still at the edge of the crowd, looking not at the stalls but at the ground near the old field. I did not approach. I told myself it was nothing. I am still telling myself that. The journal offers no follow-up to that entry. The next page moves to an unrelated matter, the repair of a fence, the price of grain, as though the writer had decided, deliberately, not to look further. From the journal, there are things one chooses not to follow to their end, not from fear, or not only from fear, sometimes because the question itself is the only thing left, and to answer it would be to lose even that. The journal was examined by 3 independent archivists between 1987 and 2003. None could agree on its origin. All 3 agreed it was genuine. From the journal, I have been asked whether I believe her. I find the question has stopped making sense to me. Belief implies a distance I no longer have. What the chroniclers recorded and what the journal records are not in conflict. They are, instead, 2 views of the same event, one from a distance, one from inside. From the journal, she asked me once what I would do if I found the way back for her. I did not answer. I think she already knew I had been looking, and that I had not stopped. She disappeared from the historical record sometime in the late 12th century. Ralph of Coggeshall notes only that she had lived for some years and then was gone. He does not say how. From the journal, she is gone. I went to the place where she had been staying and found the room empty, not abandoned, but emptied, as though she had known and had time. The journal continues for 11 more pages after her disappearance. The writer does not search for her. He does not grieve in any way the text makes visible. He simply continues recording. From the journal, I have begun to think that recording is itself a kind of following, that to write a thing down is to walk toward it one more time, very slowly, in the dark. The final 11 pages contain no new information about the girl, the pit, or the land she described. They contain only small observations, light on water, the sound of wind, the behavior of birds near the old field. From the journal, the birds do not land near the old field. They circle it and turn away. They have always done this. I only began to notice after she left. The journal's final entry is dated 3 years after her disappearance. The date itself is not possible, not by any calendar in use in 12th century England. From the journal, I am writing this from the edge of the old field. The pit is still here. It is smaller than I remembered, or I am larger. I have not decided which. The journal ends mid-sentence, not at the bottom of a page, in the middle of one, with space remaining. The pen appears to have been set down with care. William of Newburgh closed his account with a question he did not answer. Ralph of Coggeshall closed his with a statement of fact. The journal closes with neither, only a word, alone on the last line, arriving. The pit at Woolpit was filled in long ago. The village is quiet. The old field is still there, unremarkable, at the edge of town, and the birds still do not land near it. No one has explained where the children came from. The record simply stops, and the question remains exactly where they left it.